Let me start with something most founders misunderstand. Fundraising is not a win. It's not a milestone you celebrate and move on from. It is a pricing event. It is a control event. And most importantly, it is a long-term ownership decision. And if you get this wrong, you don't just make a small mistake, you create problems that show up 2-3 years later when your company actually needs flexibility the most. Because here's what most founders focus on. Can I raise money? But that is the wrong question. The real question is, what kind of deal am I signing? And what will it do to my company over time? Because fundraising is not one moment, it is a sequence. Pre-seed, seed, Series A. And every round changes your ownership, your control, and your future options. If you are not thinking about all 3 rounds while raising your first, you are already behind. Let's start with the earliest stage, pre-seed. This is where safes usually come in. And safes feel amazing. Fast, simple, no valuation negotiation, no heavy legal work. It feels like free money, but it's not. A safe does one very specific thing. It delays the pricing conversation. It does not eliminate dilution, it hides it. Because the real math shows up later when these safes convert into equity. And that is the moment many founders get shocked. They suddenly realize, I have given away way more than I expected. Not because safes are bad, but because they didn't model what would happen when multiple safes stack together. That's the keyword, stacking. One safe feels small. 3, 4, 5 safes. Now you have real dilution waiting quietly in the background. Then comes the seed round. This is where reality hits. Either your safes convert or you raise a priced round. And now the ownership math becomes visible. This is where founders first feel the squeeze. Because suddenly, investors take their share. Option pool adjustments happen. And founder ownership starts narrowing meaningfully. And if you didn't plan for this, it feels like loss. But here's the important reframe. Dilution is not bad. Bad dilution is bad. If you give up ownership and your company becomes significantly more valuable, that's a great trade. But if you give up ownership for capital that doesn't actually improve your trajectory, that's where damage happens. Now let's talk about Series A, because this is where the game becomes more serious. This is no longer just about belief and upside. Now you're dealing with structured terms, investor rights, governance board control. This is where professional investors come in. And they don't just invest in your story, they invest with protections, liquidation preferences, pro-rata rights, special approvals. And if you don't understand these terms, you are negotiating without seeing the full picture. Now here's one of the biggest founder traps, chasing high valuation. It feels amazing. You raise at a high number, you feel validated, the market respects you. But here's the hidden cost. If your company does not grow into that valuation, your next round becomes harder. Now you are negotiating from weakness. That's how down rounds happen. And down rounds are painful, not just financially, but psychologically. For founders, for employees, for investors. So sometimes a slightly lower valuation with clean terms and strong investor alignment is far more powerful than a vanity valuation that creates future pressure. This brings us to something most founders ignore, modeling. Before you raise money, you should already know what your ownership looks like today, what happens after this round, and what it likely looks like after the next round, including option pool expansion, investor follow-ons, future dilution. Because fundraising is not about today's cap table, it's about the future cap table. And if you only look at dilution when the term sheet arrives, you are already late. Now let's talk about language, because investors use simple words that hide complex consequences. Safe, valuation cap, discount, pro rata, liquidation preference. These are not just terms, they are economic decisions. They decide who makes money first, who gets protected, and who takes the downside if things don't go perfectly. And by the way, things rarely go perfectly. Another mistake founders make, confusing speed with simplicity. Yes, safes are faster, but fast does not mean harmless. A quick decision without understanding is still a risky decision. Now let's shift to something even more important, investors. Because fundraising is not just about money, it's about people. And the wrong investor is expensive. Not immediately, but over time. A bad investor can push you to chase vanity metrics, hire too fast, raise too early, avoid tough pivots. They optimize for narrative, not for business quality. And you don't see this on day one. You see it when things go wrong. So here's the real test. Talk to founders they backed, especially the ones who struggled. Ask, how did this investor behave when growth slowed, when plans changed, when things got uncomfortable? That tells you everything. And one more truth founders need to hear. Investor interest is not commitment. A lot of conversations will feel positive, encouraging, exciting, and still go nowhere. That's normal. That's why you need process discipline. Track every conversation. Know who is serious, know who is not, and don't build your company on maybe. Now let's look at a real scenario. A startup raises at a very high valuation during a hot market. Everyone celebrates. It looks like success, but growth slows down later. The company doesn't meet expectations. Now the next round becomes difficult. Investors push for tougher terms, the company loses leverage, and suddenly that high valuation becomes a trap because it optimized for ego, not for durability. So what does good fundraising actually look like? It's not just about getting money in the bank. It's about having enough capital to execute, a clean cap table, aligned investors, and a story that still works for the next round. If your round solves today's cash problem but creates tomorrow's strategic problem, it wasn't a good round. And here's the emotional trap. Founders treat investor interest as validation. So they accept bad deals because they feel good. But a flattering offer is not always a useful offer. You need discipline. So before you raise, ask yourself, what milestone does this round need to achieve? What will my ownership look like after this and the next round? Are these the investors I want in tough moments? Will this valuation still make sense if the market slows down? And am I raising to grow or to avoid a hard truth? Because here's the final principle. Fundraising should increase your options, not reduce them. The right round gives you time, clarity, and strong partners. The wrong round gives you cash today and constraints tomorrow. So don't just focus on raising money. Focus on how you raise it, because your future cap table is being designed right now. And founders who understand this don't just survive fundraising. They use it as a strategic advantage.